Just like James Sunderland promised his wife Mary that he'd take her back to Silent Hill one day, I promised all of you that I would do more videos on NieR Automata. When I did my one and only video on that game back in June of 2019, I said that the game's story was probably the most profound in all of gaming. So profound, in fact, that I would need to do multiple videos on the game in order to analyze it properly. A year and a half later, I have finally decided to make good on that promise. I figured now would be the most appropriate time, what with NieR Replicant version 1.2247 pi times diameter squared coming out in April. Regrettably, for a lot of people, NieR Automata is only remembered for its unusual aesthetic, from its cutesy enemy design to its celebration of the female form, let's say. Though there's nothing wrong with admiring the look of the game, it is nonetheless merely the frosting on a multi-layered cake, one that too few gamers have taken a bite out of. The layers within are an intermingling of existentialist philosophy and religious symbolism, along with several moral conundrums found throughout classical sci-fi. By slowly chewing on those layers, NieR Automata's complexity will begin to not only enlighten you, but terrify you. I would like to begin demonstrating that complexity by focusing on the characters of Adam and Eve. I will briefly summarize Adam and Eve's story for those who have never played NieR Automata. If you'd like to skip the summary, however, please go to this point in the video. The central conflict of NieR Automata is that of the human-created androids versus the alien-created machines. The machines have strived to wipe out humanity for centuries, the remnants of which live on the moon. The androids fight on behalf of the humans so they may one day return to Earth. Early in the game, our central protagonists, known as 2B and 9S, encounter several machines within an abandoned apartment complex. These machines clamor together in a ball and birth Adam, a machine that could easily pass for an android or even a human if you ignore the clear lack of human reproductive organs. After a fierce battle, 2B and 9S stab Adam through the torso. This stabbing causes the birth of Eve, who emerges from Adam's side. Due to the collapse of the surrounding area, the four characters are forced to flee. In the meantime, Adam and Eve do everything they can to learn about not only their alien forefathers, but humankind. They do this with the sole intention of surpassing both species, evolving their consciousness into something greater. Before they can do so, 2B and 9S manage to defeat both Adam and Eve in separate battles. We will discuss what happens with Adam and Eve between their initial encounter with the androids and their deaths, but before we do, let us return to their conception. There is a lot of symbolism here that a lot of people have likely missed out on. First of all, the clamoring of machines into a ball to birth Adam reflects scientific and religious concepts. On the one hand, this ball of machines is synonymous with the primordial soup of evolution. The uniting of all these individual machines into a ball reflects the compounds of organic materials found in aqueous bodies around 4 billion years ago. It is from the intermingling of these compounds that all life on Earth sprang. Unlike humans, machines did not emerge from the primordial soup. However, they seemingly have the ability to create their own sort of primordial soup to birth their own beings. In Yoko Taro's vision of the future, the machines would combine themselves at will, fusing their individual bodies and minds. The complex intermingling of these bodies and minds reflects that primordial soup, and from it, they birthed the highest form of consciousness they could, the first of its kind. Appropriately, this first being is named Adam, and the being that sprang from Adam was named Eve. With this, there is obvious religious symbolism, but there is also some esoteric religious symbolism that we will get to in a moment. The name Adam was, of course, the name of the first man in the Judeo-Christian tradition, birthed by God. In the book of Genesis, God took a piece of Adam's rib while he was sleeping and used it to create Eve, the first woman. This parallels how NieR's Eve was born when he emerged from Adam's side. That's the obvious symbolism. Now, as for the symbolism that I believe a lot of people missed, we need only look to Adam and Eve's androgyny. When I say androgyny, I mean they look neither stereotypically masculine or feminine. Though they technically have no gender, they are modeled after human sex characteristics. When Adam and Eve are born, they have long hair and feminine facial features, particularly with their eyes and what appears to be makeup. However, their bodies are clearly modeled after stereotypically masculine torsos. Even if one were to argue that they are strictly male, the lack of sex organs makes such a conclusion strictly relative. Many people might have put Adam and Eve's androgyny down to the game's unique aesthetic, but there might actually be more to it than we thought. In several religious traditions, there are numerous illustrations of what the first man was supposedly like. In many of these illustrations, that first man is androgynous. In the Jewish Kabbalah, there is Adam Kadmon, who was seen as androgynous. Kadmon was the macrocosmic entity that birthed the microcosmic Adam of the Garden of Eden. In some Jewish circles, like the Old Midrash, the microcosmic biblical Adam was also androgynous. He only became male when Eve was separated out from him. The portrayal of Adam Kadmon and the biblical Adam as androgynous follows an ancient religious tendency. For thousands of years, global religion has tried to envision what the universe was like before it came into being. I have discussed this concept in many of my previous videos, but it bears repeating. Before the universe was birthed, it was all contained in one seed. All the opposites latent in creation, such as light and darkness, fire and water, male and female, were united in this seed. This seed is incomprehensible to humankind, personified with paradoxical imagery like the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. The paradox here is the unity of life and death. The snake lives, though it is also killing itself. This unity of opposites, along with all others, were latent in the cosmic seed. It was only when it hatched that the opposites were released and the universe was given dimension. Adam Kadmon is another personification of this cosmic seed. It too is androgynous, uniting the male and female principle in one. This tendency towards androgyny continues in other traditions, such as Hinduism. There's the deity known as Ardhanarishvara, a unity of the masculine and feminine energies. The union of these energies is seen as the root of all creation in Hinduism. In the alchemical tradition, there is Mercurius, the personification of the world soul, which is another term for the root or the cosmic seed. Mercurius is also seen as a union of the masculine and feminine principles. There was also, probably most famously, the occultist Baphomet. According to a French occultist named Eliphas Lévy, he is a depiction of the quote-unquote absolute, which again is a term synonymous with cosmic seed, the world soul, and the macrocosm. Baphomet clearly has masculine and feminine parts. What Yoko Taro did with the creation of the Adam and Eve characters is not only continue this ancient tradition, but do so with an entirely different species. The machines in NieR Automata wished to create their own first man of sorts. To do so, they united their bodies and their minds in a way that tried to reflect something like the cosmic seed, the primordial soup, or a macrocosmic deity. Just like the macrocosmic Adam Kadmon birthed the microcosmic Adam, the macrocosmic ball birthed the microcosmic Adam. As above, so below. Within NieR's Adam, we see several of these religious interpretations of the first man united. It's a brilliant and unique concept to think about what autonomous conscious machines would do to birth their own first creation, let's say. In Yoko Taro's mind, this creation would end up being their highest conceivable ideal. It would not only be relatively perfect, in that it would possess an inconceivable amount of knowledge as well as physical strength, it would also have the ability to learn. It could reach levels of perfection imperceptible to the consciousness of machines, androids, or humans. What is perfect to us would be mere child's play for enlightened beings. What Adam and Eve didn't realize is that this strive towards perfection would also be their greatest weakness.
We machines exist in a connected network. We are immortal, invincible, and yet, within all those infinite bits of data, there exists not even the merest flicker of being, of life. Death, even the concept of death, has no meaning to us.
One of the reasons why the war between machines and androids has gone on for so long is because neither can truly die. If their bodies die, their minds go back into the network and can be re-uploaded into a new body. This ability to transcend death is an aspect of perfection that humans have strived for but never achieved. Unlike these machines, human beings don't have a network. If we do have some sort of organic network, it is unverifiable. It is limitation, imperfection, that makes human beings what they are. Our limitations, to use Adam's words, are what make us kill uncountable numbers of our own kind, and yet cause us to love in equal measure. Adam and Eve do not have that, and thus they struggle to understand humans for much of the game. Paradoxically, their perfection is the weakness they wish to transcend. Once Adam realizes that he needs limitation and perfection to understand humans properly, he cuts himself off from the network. That way, when he dies, he truly dies. He does this right before fighting 2B so that he may feel something approaching human emotion. Unfortunately for Adam, 2B kills him in battle, leaving only Eve behind. When this happens, Eve suffers an existential breakdown. To him, his brother was everything. Now that he has no reason to live, no higher meaning to strive to, he can no longer stand the burden of being. This supposedly limitless being has found his limits. Thus, to use his words, everything must die. Unlike human beings who have religious systems to supply their lives with meaning and keep their existential dread at bay, Eve feels connection to nothing except his brother. Eve thinks that if he dies, then his consciousness simply ceases to exist. If he is going to stay alive, then one limit must not be breached. His brother must stay alive. Now that that limit is breached, he figures he might as well take revenge on existence itself, so it may feel the pain he feels. With the example of Adam and Eve, we understand why human beings are motivated to create religious systems. The belief in a transcendent morality keeps us calm and civilized. It's a key component to psychological health, in a way. Without it, the suffering of being alive can become absolutely unbearable, even for those who might as well be gods. This is why we see the machines spontaneously create religious systems, in cases like that of the Forest King and Kierkegaard. But nonetheless, there is always that nagging voice in the back of our heads, trying to convince us that existence is meaningless. That, like Adam and Eve, we will simply cease to exist upon death, and there is no transcendent goal to work towards in this life. In regards to who is right, well, we have been trying to answer that for thousands of years, and we haven't gotten anywhere. What we have found an answer to is how to cope with existential dread. I would like to conclude by quoting a philosopher that NieR Automata references quite a bit, Friedrich Nietzsche. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. As long as we have that how, be it one reason or many reasons to live, we can avoid Eve's fate. If you'd like to see more videos on NieR Automata, please let me know by making sure to hit that like button, or telling me in the comment section below which character you'd like me to cover next. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. Links to all of those things and more are in the description box below. Finally, special thanks to Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, for looking over the script for this video. Until next time, just remember, stay yellow.